I understand it's been a while since I have made anything regarding Destiny or Bungie, but I would like to get my thoughts out there regarding Bungie's heavily anticipated new IP known as Marathon. As of the writing of this script, Bungie plans on making this an extraction shooter, according to their Vidoc. There has been speculations, though, that Bungie is conflicted on the subgenre of their new game, and examples of this are rumors that folks state that Bungie wants to make it a hero shooter, and while I didn't have evidence to deny that claim at the time, it's pretty obvious that they're going the extraction shooter route. And for the sake of argument, let's say that's not the case. I have serious doubts of this coming to fruition, even if that is the idea behind what people believe. First, it wouldn't make logical sense for an attempt to siphon the market share of a subgenre that most FPS enthusiasts are generally indifferent about. One could argue that there is more of a negative outlook on hero shooters as well after that catastrophic money burn pit known as Concord, though Marvel Rivals seems to be redeeming the genre a little bit. My point is that the idea of Bungie going the hero shooter route doesn't add up when the market is indifferent at best and cynical at worst. All of this to say, Marathon has generated quite a bit of buzz, but with the extraction shooter label, is it destined for greatness, or will it be another flash in the pan? I believe it's got serious potential, and here's why. One may question my optimism, especially of most PvP players for Destiny 2, and I believe that's fair, so here is why. First off, is that Marathon is going to be the PvP game from Bungie, with PvP balancing in mind. Since this will be built from the ground up for a player versus player environment, this will mean dedicated balancing, no concerns for PvE holding back sandbox tuning, and a competitive experience that most players can enjoy in harmony. It will also have dedicated servers and strong cheating anti measures. This is also reason to believe that the technical side of the game will be in great shape. How many times have you died behind a wall, or someone damage glitched you, or you got a dead slide in Destiny? Countless amounts of times, this has been a complaint, and it would be so nice to not have outcomes of your gameplay decided by random technical deficiencies. On a side note, this also explains why I have kind of taken a backseat on the finals. The concept and idea of the game is still enjoyable, but it's declined in regards to the technical side of things. The gunplay and movement only became more jank over time, and the optimization has only gotten worse. I have a NASA computer, and at best I could maybe get 120 frames, and it's not very consistent either, and there's stuttering and whatnot. Due to the love that Marathon will be getting on the technical end, this is also why many Destiny players wanted to fail out of spite. Many players, myself included, held on to the ideas and false promises that Bungie would give the PvP side of the game the love and greatness it was long overdue for. When Marathon was announced that it would have a strong anti cheat and dedicated servers, it's reasonable for those two announcements to rub players the wrong way given the support that never fully materialized. While some of those promises eventually came to fruition, it also came during a time where the game suffered a critical level of apathy and disinterest. After the release of the final shape, which served as a conclusion to the Light and Darkness saga of Destiny, many simply moved on to other games. Tangent aside, Marathon being a PvP game implies the notion that Bungie will have a cohesive vision that is maintained throughout the game's lifespan, whereas Destiny had countless identity crises. Bungie tried to appeal to everyone, and so that meant bending their backs over in favor to appease community outcry, even if it does long term harm to the game. The best example I could think of in recent times is the checkmate modifier in Destiny 2. While I won't go into an insane amount of detail, because I have already discussed checkmate in a previous video, I will provide basic context to get those unfamiliar with checkmate caught up. Checkmate was essentially Bungie's way of adjusting the PvP landscape to be more in line with the increase in average player skill. This brought drastic, much needed changes to PvP, and it was all walked back because of community outcry. Since Bungie will have a clean canvas to work with on Marathon, Bungie can decide on the identity and direction of the game and put their foot down on it without the pressure of previous expectations from a past game in a series. A simple example is Destiny 1 and how explosive the PvP sandbox was. Over the years, players had gotten accustomed to that flavor of PvP. When Destiny 2 released, it was the antithesis of that, so Bungie had no room to iterate on their vision. For example, there has been countless feedback that stated, quote unquote, this isn't Destiny, as a sentiment. We could even look at other games. Take Apex Legends, for example. This was the first in its BR genre to have hero abilities, and it was clear what direction Respawn wanted to take the game. To this day, the player base is mostly happy, and there is no confusion as to what Apex's vision is as a BR game. A clear identity is paramount to any game because it allows the developers creative freedom to iterate on their product while taking into consideration the type of game they want to supply to their audience. This way, players can expect refinements that gradually ease them into a different experience while keeping a clear understanding of the game's identity. My strongest theory for why Marathon's potential will be realized is due to the fact that the extraction shooter genre has not been fully explored. There is an abundance of creative grounds that has not been explored yet, and I'm intrigued to see how Bungie puts their spin on it. We can already count on the mechanics such as movement and gunplay to feel responsive and natural as it's been a staple throughout Bungie games. It is confirmed that there will be a class system in Marathon similar to what Destiny 2 has, but they also reassured that the class system doesn't mean you are extremely limited in regards to gameplay and player expression. That already adds ample replayability to the game. Not only that, but they also have the freedom as to how they could approach the direction of looting and PvP. Bungie could deliver a slightly casual approach to the direction of player and looting interactions. The most punishing example of a full loot system is Escape from Tarkov, where death means you lose everything that you brought in the raid. What if instead of full loot, they went with partial loot PvP? I think a model Bungie could potentially follow is the model that a small indie game known as Stalcraft has. Stalcraft is a combination of the Stalker series with Roblox and Minecraft graphics. I will showcase visuals along the way, but the best way I can explain the gameplay and looting loop is that the player goes out into the open world and farms for resources that can be used for bartering with a vendor to create gear such as weapons and armor. And that's how you progress further and further into the game. During your travels, you will also find crafting materials for your hideout, sellables for pocket change, and artifacts, which are the biggest part of your kit, and it's pretty much the end game of Stallcraft because artifacts are pretty much power spikes in terms of builds and whatnot. You do this all while doing your best to stay alive from any encounters with hostile beasts and NPCs, as well as other players, which are obviously the biggest threats. There are also quests you can complete from NPCs that give rewards as well as guns or even armor. You wouldn't expect a game with these kinds of graphics to have so much depth and complexity, and that's what kind of hooked me onto this game. There is also that thrill with extraction shooters with a suspenseful atmosphere to it. Every second you are roaming around doing something is every second that you could fall over and die. The most interesting moments are when you're in a raid doing whatever it is you're doing, and when you least expect it, you come across a highly valuable item, and then your heart starts racing, and then you want to extract immediately, understanding that you are a high value kill should you die. Stallcraft is a partial loot system where the player will lose all of their consumables on death, but keep their gear and artifacts since those require a big grind to achieve. Who knows what Bungie direction will who knows what direction Bungie will go in this regard, but I think it would be in their best interest to decide against making full loot PvP to the extremity of Tarkov. I could be completely wrong here, but I think the desirable end game for most extraction shooter players is getting to a point in which you are rich enough to continuously PvP just for the fun of it. In Tarkov's case, that means having kits ready to go in case you die, And if not, you have the resources and means to acquire them and buy them. I think partial loot PvP would satisfy both the inexperienced shooter players and the hardcore PvP enthusiasts who just want to shoot bad guys in a balanced environment. So, while I see all this potential for Marathon to break new ground in the extraction shooter genre, it's puzzling to see so much negativity and premature dismissal surrounding the game. That brings me to this. Why is there so much seemingly unjustifiable hate for Marathon before it's even released, let alone gameplay being shown? I think there is reason to be concerned given Bungie's recent track record with Destiny's PvP, but many people are writing it off early when gameplay footage hasn't even been shown yet. I will acknowledge that many Destiny fans wished that Marathon was a traditional arena shooter, but that approach would reduce the potential of Marathon, and here's why. Arena shooters have been around for longer than I've been alive, and every possible flavor of arena shooter has been experienced and tested. The fluids from the creative lemons have been squeezed to its last nanoliter. My lukewarm take is that there isn't any more spice you could add to an arena shooter to drastically set it apart from its countless contemporaries. To draw a parallel here, I want to compare the arena shooter genre to the fighting game genre. For decades, fighting games have remained a staple in the gaming industry, captivating audiences with their diverse characters, complex combos, and competitive gameplay. However, despite the genre's enduring popularity, innovation has become increasingly rare, with many arguing that the competitive quality of many industry favorites such as Tekken, Street Fighter, or Mortal Kombat, just to name a few, they're taking a considerable decrease. Many modern fighting games tend to adhere to strictly established formulas, introducing only incremental changes rather than bold transformative ideas. This stagnation has led to fatigue among some players who feel that the genre relies too heavily on nostalgia and repetition rather than genuine innovation. The mechanics have been refined to death, every possible character archetype has been explored, and while there still are high quality fighting games, don't get me wrong, they often feel like iterations on a well worn formula rather than groundbreaking experiences. You still get good fighting games, and some smaller titles try new things, but the big players stick to iterations of the same blueprint because it's the safe option, and that isn't exciting. My point is that this particular subgenre of shooter has hit a creative dead end for a while, and it would take a design genius and visionary to develop a new blueprint that brings long-term interest and excitement back to these arena shooters. It would take a savant of a game studio to crack the code and put arena shooters back in the conversation. And on another note, I also think Destiny players have to understand that beggars cannot be choosers. Bungie is promising a PvP game, so at least showcase some level of gratitude because Bungie could have just announced a Destiny 3 and then the cycle would just repeat itself all over again. To conclude, I find myself being very intrigued by Marathon because Bungie can make magic happen if they are allowed to. I believe it makes the most sense for them to go the route of the extraction shooter genre because they could put their own unique twist on their take of the genre and it could be industry defining, like Destiny 2 once was. So, to all the naysayers and the preemptive critics, I challenge you to do this: underestimate Bungie in Marathon at your own risk. This isn't just another arena shooter reskin or a desperate attempt to chase a trend. This is a chance for Bungie to unleash their creativity on a genre that's begging for innovation. I'm not saying it's guaranteed to be a masterpiece, but I am saying that writing it off before we've even seen it is naive at best. Let's see if Bungie can surprise all of us. Hell, I'm down for it. And on that note, that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on Marathon and the potential I believe it holds. Despite the negativity, I genuinely believe Bungie might be onto something special here. Only time will tell if they can deliver, but I'm definitely keeping a close eye on this one. Thanks for listening if you've made it to the end, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for Marathon. Until then, I bid you farewell, and feel free to comment your opinions or what have you, and I'll try to address it when I can. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.